Subscribe Magnifying Earth and press the bell icon for latest updates. Records owned by Mother Nature. Part 2. In the first part of this video, we have discussed about the following records. 1. The deepest underwater cave in the world, Pranika Past. 2. The oldest river in the world, Finke River. 3. The oldest mountain range in the world, Makanjwa Mountains. 4. The heaviest and longest living organism, aspen trees. 5. The largest rocks in the world, Uluru. Now, the next 5 records of the nature is presented in this video. Number 5. The tiniest mammal in the world. Bumblebee bat. How small can a mammal get? We've all seen tiny lizards, frogs, insects, and even birds, but mammals are usually bigger, right? Well, not necessarily. Native to the jungles of Thailand, Kitti's hog-nosed bat is roughly the size of a bee, thus its occasional name of bumblebee bat. It was first identified in 1974 by a Thai zoologist, Kitty Thonglongyear, who gave it the name of hog-nosed because of its pink, pig-like snout. The tiny bat inhabits areas of western Thailand and southeastern Myanmar and usually lives in colonies of 10 to 100 individuals that dwell in limestone caves, located near rivers. Their group numbers can sometimes reach as many as 500. It weighs only 2 grams and measures around 1.1 inches, and its wingspan is about 6.7 inches. They feast mostly on insects and have dark-colored wings with long tips that allow them to glide and hover in the air. Not much is known about these tiny creatures, but it's believed that they give birth to one single baby each year at the end of April. They usually dwell deep inside caves and most often stay in groups of 10 or 15 individuals in different parts of the cave. They have a short activity period, leaving their caves for about half an hour in the evening and 20 minutes at dawn. Their foraging can always be cut short by heavy rains or cold weather. Unfortunately, however, the bumblebee bat is currently classified as vulnerable because of deforestation, loss of habitat, and increased tourist activity in the area. Number 4. World's largest ice cave. Isriesenwald. Located some 25 miles south of Salzburg, Austria lies the largest ice cave in the world. The Isriesenwald, or World of the Ice Giants, is a natural limestone cave in Werfen, Austria that extends for about 26 miles into the mountain. It was created some 100 million years ago by the Salzach River, which found its way through the limestone cracks in the mountain and then slowly eroded it to create this World of the Ice Giants. But even though the cave extends for 26 miles, only the entrance and the subsequent 0.6 miles are covered in ice. It was first discovered back in 1879 and is considered to be a dynamic cave. This means that there are other openings in the upper levels that allow for a strong draft to form and the air to circulate freely through the cave. Every spring melting water seeps in through the cracks, and when it reaches the cave's lower levels, where the main entrance is, it freezes. And since the entrance of the cave is open all year, in winter the colder air from outside blows into the cave and freezes the inside. In summer, the air circulation is reversed and cold air from inside the cave keeps the ice from melting. Every year, some 200,000 tourists visit the World of the Ice Giants, marveling at the natural ice sculptures, some of which tower at over 75 feet. Number 3. The oldest forest in existence. Gondwana. Some 335 million years ago, all the planet's land masses came together to form the supercontinent of Pangaea. This wasn't the first time this happened, and it will most certainly not be the last. Nevertheless, about 175 million years ago, Pangaea eventually broke apart, with one of its land masses going north and eventually turning into what we now know as North America and Eurasia. The other half, known as Gondwana, shifted south. During this time, an immense and ancient tropical forest began to take root here, a forest that would end up covering pretty much the entire southern hemisphere. Over the many millennia since, Gondwana, too, broke apart into South America, Africa, India, Antarctica, and Australia, which then slowly took up their current locations on the globe. But in doing so, almost all of them lost their share of the tropical forest. Only Australia kept relatively the same latitude as the ancient continent of Gondwana, and the forest never really disappeared, though it did change. Don't let this description lead you to believe that the forest is the same as it was 170 million years ago, because it isn't. Over time, old species of plants and animals gave way to newer ones, but the Gondwana rainforest, as it's known today, has been in continuous existence since before the dinosaurs. At present, however, the Gondwana rainforest makes up just 0.3% of Australia and it is only found on its eastern coast. Number 2. The largest single living organism of Earth. Armillaria ostoi. The Blue Mountains in eastern Oregon are home to the largest living organism on the planet. But even though it is huge, you won't be able to see it if you don't know what to look for. The first sign that the organism is there in the first place is that some trees seem to die in its presence. The organism we're talking about here is a fungus. A giant Armillaria ostoi, to be more exact. Since it lives mostly underground, people only became aware of its presence after a team of forestry scientists began mapping eastern Oregon's pathogenic fungus distribution. The A. ostoi causes the Armillaria root disease that infects conifers in many parts of North America. The fungus usually grows along tree roots and has the capability to extend between different trees while underground, and thus have a wider distribution. By taking samples from different sites in the Blue Mountains, these forestry scientists were able to deduce that all of them were, in fact, the same organism covering an incredible area of about 2,384 acres. There are other fungi in the genus Armillaria, as well as other A. ostoi that have large distributions and somewhat similar feeding habits, but none come close to this one in eastern Oregon. Thanks to a series of good genes, favorable topography, and a stable environment to thrive in, this particular fungus has grown to an amazing size over the past 2,400 to 8,650 years. This also places it among the oldest creatures on the planet. Number 1. Fastest moving continent. Australia. Our knowledge of plate tectonics isn't that old, and this can't really come as a surprise to anyone. After all, we don't live nearly long enough to witness any meaningful changes in the greater scheme of things on the planet. This doesn't only apply to the positions of the continents relative to each other. Nevertheless, only in 1963 did scientists come to realize that the continents are in constant movement over a plastic-like layer of the upper mantle of the Earth. And depending on the consistency of that upper mantle layer, the fact that the Earth is not a perfect sphere, the mineral composition of each individual continent, as well as a series of other factors, continents move at different speeds and in different directions. But even though these changes don't seem like much when it comes to our everyday lives, Australia's breakneck speed of 2.7 inches per year has now created some problems when it comes to the accuracy of GPS. For GPS to work properly, it needs 2 satellites in orbit and a transmitter on the ground, your phone, for instance, in order to create a triangulation, as well as an accurate map for your GPS to display your exact location. But since the last adjustment was brought to GPS coordinates in 1994, Australia has moved some 4.9 feet. This means that, even if your GPS works perfectly, it will still show you to be some 4.9 feet to the south of your current location. That's if you live in Australia. Of course. So, If you're a precision freak and constantly get annoyed by your GPS always locating you in your neighbor's house, you should blame your fast-moving continent. Australia is, in fact, drifting north and has a slight clockwise rotation. But don't worry, because people are looking into the issue and it will soon be fixed.